Well, we have to do the newspapers. I told you again, we're having Israel now a regular feature on our show now, and the young Joseph Akable getting ready to tie the knot next month is also on stream. Joseph, good morning to you. Israel, good morning.
I don't know about the wedding you are announcing.
Oh, you are denying all your girlfriends. What a shame.
I'm not denying, but you are fixing a timeline for the wedding. Good morning, Israel.
Good morning to you, Joseph. And Roland, you're becoming notorious. You should stop this. Announcing people's weddings and birthdays when they are not due.
No, as for me, I do birthdays a lot.
But you just added wedding. You just added a wedding.
Yes, because of Joseph had been indicating
Roland. Okay. We should start suing him for some of the things he says about
very distinguished personalities.
But good morning, guys. Good to see y'all.
Good to see you, Israel.
Good morning. Good to see you too.
Yeah. Okay, so we're straight away going to review the papers. I'm not going to start with the graphic today, so let's see. One of you, Easy Joseph.
Well, I have the daily guide. Okay. I could go with it.
Go for it.
So, Nana launches 1 billion CD package, which is a stimulus package. Face mask defaulters in trouble. Ochehene bans shrines. And that's a very interesting story. I'd like to get some more details on that. COVID-19 climbs to 5,918. Well, that was until the figure was updated last night. And MPs begin COVID-19 testing today. So there's going to be mass screening of MPs for COVID-19. And also in the daily guide, in the center spread, there's this bullet stretched over Wendy Shea and Fantana petty fights. So we have beefs, and then we also have some petty fights within camp. And we have also in the center spread of the daily guide, invest in your brand outside music. Rapper, and this question, rapper asked why God didn't replace Shatta with Bonchaka. Why would anybody ask a question like that?
Surprise.
And also right there, we have group opts for Unipass suspension and Maslock loans not ex gratia. ABSA Ghana introduces 50 new intelligent ATMs. And let me see which other stories we have here. So then we have, right, so let's do this Daily Statesman. Ochehene wages war against criminal voodoo priests. And COVID-19 speaker orders mass testing of MPs, parliamentary staff. And government will be transparent. President assures on 1 billion CD COVID-19 business support. So that's what I have.
All right, let me come in with the Daily Graphic and the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Front page of the graphic, government will protect jobs, President declares at stimulus package launch. Well, the application process starts today, May 2020, so you can put in an application. So from 20th of May to the 20th of June, that's when it's open. You can check out details of it. If you qualify, and hopefully you do, you can apply and get some money. It's not for individuals, though. It's got to be a business, not a large business. Reopening of schools, parents weigh risk. And this conversation has obviously come up again because of that directive from the GES to stakeholders for them to share, they call it strategies, just in case the president announces that ban on restrictions have been lifted, and it's just generating a whole lot of conversation. You know, we have this conversation and then we come back and then we have it again. Would you allow your child to go to school? Even the children themselves expressing a lot of fear, not wanting to go back to school. So that conversation reignited. Details of that in the paper. ECG debts cleared, 500 million Ghana cedis credit outstanding, according to the energy minister. Well, head of our energy desk, Izzy, is on the show, so you know, with people disputing this, particularly the opposition, when we get there, we'll see what he can tell us. MPs to undergo testing for COVID-19. Father jailed 2 years for cutting son's ear lobe, and this was speedily prosecuted. Center spread address gaps in gender equality social inclusion program. That's according to a study report. Partying against COVID-19 restrictions, 19 charged in courts. Also, Samira Empowerment and Humanitarian Project donates PPE to 2 hospitals. Gan North Assembly supports vulnerable persons. Abu Abu Chief supports community, educates people. Lots of stories in the center spread of the paper. On the back page, Latter-day Saints, IRC Ghana supports KMA, and Ghana Water Company Limited restores water supply to Tema. The Ghanaian Times front page, President launches 1 billion Ghana cedis COVID-19 support fund for medium small enterprises affected by pandemic. COVID-19 tally now 5,918. Well, that's because I guess at the time they went publishing the papers, that was the figure, but overnight it's been updated. Easy mentioned it, we're now 6,096 confirmed cases with 1,773 recoveries and 31 deaths. So they've got the death rates correct, but of course recoveries have gone up, and certainly our total case counts have also gone beyond the 6,000 mark. 158 police facilities to be disinfected in Ashanti region. Government clears 2.63 billion Ghana cedis legacy debts owed ECG. Back page, COVID-19, 624 out of 695 workers of Tema Fish Processing Company test negative. Company based in China donates assorted food supplement to Ghana Police Service. And that's how the back page of the Ghanaian Times today, Wednesday, May 2020. That's how it looks like.
Joseph?
We can do the Ghanaian Observer now. The front page of the Ghanaian Observer, it says, Akufo-Addo unveils 1 billion cedi SCAP business support scheme, and Speaker orders mandatory test for MPs also on the front page. And Akufo-Addo Pratt, Bako and Co. Mark Kumipreko at 25, also on the front page of the Ghanaian Observer. The back page has the Man United confirmed funds to be refunded, and Shemichael picks out Son as perfect Man United target also on the back page of the Ghanaian Observer. The Finder newspaper has the front page, 1 billion stimulus launched. Government clears all debts owed ECG as at end of 2019. And doubting COVID-19 recoveries fuels stigma, that's according to Pius Ajide. And delayed release of results cost hike in Obuasi COVID-19 cases, according to the Ghana Health Service. The back page has this story about government clearing all debts owed ECG, and acquisition of building permits goes virtual. And finally, on the back page of the Finder has a story about car powership donating to the Muslim community in Secondary. Those are the front pages of the Finder and the Ghanaian Observer.
All right, let me quickly do the custodian. Same related issue about the cash for SMEs, now official 1 billion Ghana cedis. That's an excess, we can point around 180,000 US dollars. 180,000, no, 180 million US dollars, yeah. All right, as Akufo-Addo launches business support scheme, Mamavi has a business, so says she will apply. And Israel also has a business, so he will apply. Joseph, you have a business?
Yes.
Okay, please apply. Get your finances right. Make sure your statements and things are good.
But you're misleading people, Roland.
Please, let's go on.
Only if you feel your business has suffered because of COVID-19.
As for me, my business has suffered plenty. And I know Israel has suffered. Israel is even working from home. Usually, Israel will not work from home. So we have had this government clears over 2 billion Ghana cedi ECG debt. But I'm serious, let's get our finances in order. I'm sure that we can access, we're all business owners. Since Joseph, the youngest among us, is our role model. Even Joseph has a business. So, Charlie, we have to. Yeah, he's young.
I'm offended on his behalf.
Let me do the Daily Dispatch. It has on the front page, when the ban on public gathering is lifted, churches and schools may be closed down if protocols are not observed. And this story is on page 2. And says it talks about the numbers in terms of what the breakdowns are for cases, and Greater Accra, 74% of the nationwide cases, and the schools and the churches, what could happen, etc. And you know, there's a whole caricature here, as well as a cartoon-like drawing of when school reopens, what will take place. It says it talks volumes about how pupils could be removing marks, some under the tables, and just talking to each other in a very uncontrolled way, just like all of us envisage. It's quite frightening when you watch the picture, and I'm hoping that, well, we can do something better about it. I think that'll be it for now. Any of the picks? Israel, Joe, what do you want to talk about? I want to talk about the teacher unions resisting any sort of attempts by the education authorities to reopen schools. And there was a statement that formally has been brought. We'll take a look at it. But first, let me ask the two of you, any of your picks? Israel?
I find the story on the Ochehene Ban's shrines very interesting, and I'm trying to get some more detail on it. Where exactly is the Ochehene doing that, since I don't have the paper itself?
And let me just help you by also comprehensively taking a look at what the story says. And if you read the story, it says that the Ochehene has banned all ritual activities in shrines in the over 940 communities in the traditional area. And the Ochehene's action follows a recent arrest of 2 fetish priests who have been accused of murdering at least 2 people. And it's for that reason. And the 2 fetish priests, Christian Lawo Gameli, Power 1, and the others also named Famous Adukono, aka Scorpion 37, all from Apipa in the Volta region. We're operating a shrine called Power 1 Herbal and Spiritual Center, located at Edu Kwejo and Kofi Nyako. And it's also because there's a statement that has been issued which indicates a violation of customary observance as to what has to be done. And according to the statement, it has been observed that over the past decade, there have been the influx of immigrant ritualists disguised as traditional priests who have abused the hospitality of Ochimang. So it's basically about the activities of these shrines and what they keep doing.
So what does a ban constitute, I guess? What is it?
Ultimately, to make sure that there's some sort of regulation, get to have an insight into how they operate, etc. Israel, have you ever been to a shrine? Oh, you're interested in the story? Right, great.
Never. I've never had to.
You all do remember, I don't even whether Joseph has read about it. There used to be, back in the 90s, a story about Dr. Beckley. That time, PMP used to be very much in vogue at the time. And they had serialized a number of stories about Dr. Beckley and the actions that he undertook in his home right here in Accra, and how when the police raided the place, they saw human skulls, you know, various idols, etc. And I don't know what.
But I'm just wondering. Okay, so there's a ban. Like, what does it mean? What does it translate into? So they won't operate, or what?
They are simply asking them not to operate because they've not met a certain standard. More like the central bank of the shrines ruling there that you don't meet a certain criteria, so you are not allowed to operate. I find it quite interesting. But more importantly, they are content about the fact that some of them have engaged in killings, and that's of concern to the overlord, and you can't just let that go by. And so it's a bit of interesting piece of regulation that they're executing there.
I'm curious as to how they're going to, you know, regulate them, seeing that they're talking about an influx of people, you know, aliens, people coming in and doing all sorts of things under the guise of, you know, operating a shrine, and yet they're killing people, you know. So yeah, I find it curious. How are you going to regulate that? Because it's not as if the people are going to register that I have a shrine here. Usually these things were word of mouth. They don't. Well, except a number of them are advertising. They're going on Facebook, you know, the malams and the rest. So I don't know if that's how they intend to grab them, but I find it interesting how you're going to regulate them.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking the Constitution, 1992 Constitution, grants the freedom for all forms of religion to be practiced. And if you look at what the statistics are, not only in our country, but even across the African sub-region, you get to find that there are a number of people who want to practice traditional religion. Indeed, Benin, the largest number of people in that country, majority of them are traditional religious worshippers, so to speak. So they have shrines or idols in their homes that they ascribe to. You take the Hindus and the others also. They have certain, you know...
Is this a religion? Like, are we moving into...
Yeah, I think so. I think the Ochimai need to really take a look at this, because there are people who want to ascribe to a certain form of religious practices. You can say maybe they're abusing human rights, but that should not be the ground for which we should stop people from worshipping what they want.
I don't think I saw it as a religious question. It's more of a business entity operating in an area that customary law is recognized.
It's because you're a Christian. It's not fair to the traditional
law,
worshippers.
They have the right to determine
but did you hear what he said?
What form it should take in religion.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so this boy whose father cut his ear, the father has been jailed 2 years, and the story has been captured in the Daily Graphic newspaper today. Well, of course, we reported on this as well. But the boy told the Daily Graphic on Monday that he took his father's money to enable him to visit his mother, and also used part of the money to cover the cost of an excursion to Amasamai. He explained that his father had always denied him of some basic needs, and he had on some occasions taken money from his father without his knowledge. He claimed the money he stole from his father was usually not huge amounts. Well, the court presided over by Justice Bernard Bentel convicted Momoni on his own plea and sentenced him to 2 years imprisonment on each count. The sentence is to run concurrently. The judge, prior to passing the sentence, stated that the accused was a first offender and that he had shown remorse in his demeanor. He further stated that he wanted the punishment to serve as a deterrent to others. So after this story came out that this 55-year-old man who cut off his 10-year-old son's right ear for allegedly stealing his 250 Ghana cedis, people thought 2 years was not, enough for this kind of offense. And that's why the background is very important, what the judge said in the end. I guess the speedy trial of this case that, it makes me happy that this has been done within this time. We've seen the end of it. Hopefully he learns his lesson.
I think the plea too was quite important, the fact that he admitted to the offense, and so really that took the burden of prosecution having to prove its case entirely off them. The guys admitted to doing it, so right then the court has no option than to pronounce sentence. And I could understand why he went for 2 years, because obviously he's someone who has admitted that I committed a crime. He said he's also shown remorse, and being a first-time offender, I mean, we just hope that, it's the bigger conversation has to do with, which is something that we discussed not too long ago, about how modern parenting should be undertaken. That's something that I'm sure
is it also maybe compounded with the stresses of the times that we're in? Are people just frustrated and channeling those frustrations elsewhere, so that we're overdoing things,
Maybe Israel should try that, because he's at home. He's not coming. Well, that
you had on the kids.
That is not an excuse, actually. So yeah, you may be stressed and all that, but that doesn't give you the right, or that's not an excuse for you to visit that kind of harm on your child. But for me, the bigger question is, and the concern I have, is when these courts, or when the courts deliver such judgments, my concern is about how the child is going to be taken care of. Because if we had a well-functioning social welfare system, the child will be taken out of the system, taking out of the family environment or that environment, and giving a place and taking good care of. But where you have a situation where the system is not functioning as it should, where do these children end up? Because if you're jailing the father, who's going to take care of the child? And the father could, well, the father is supposed to be the one who knows how best to take care of the child. I don't know about the mother. I don't know if the
well, they're actually, the background is that they are divorced. So this boy was living with the father.
Okay, so it could be that the father is a breadwinner and all of. My concern is, let's fix our social welfare system. And if the system is fixed, sometimes these issues could be picked up even before it gets to the point where the child has the harm is done to the child. And it appears in this country we really don't pay that much attention when it comes to social welfare system.
Okay. And talking about children, we also do know that they have to be in school, but the teacher unions, and now we even have parent-teacher associations coming together to say, look, if you're tinkering, even with the idea of reopening by the beginning of next month, don't even try it at all. They have a statement that has been dominating the front lines and the front pages over the last 12 hours. And apparently, they've given instances for which they fear that reopening the schools could result in some concerns, whether it's coronavirus cases also being reported, etc. And I want to pick your thoughts on this. Let me start with you, Joseph.
I think there are two ways to look at it. There is the realistic approach where you admit that indeed COVID-19 is here to stay. It's a part of our lives, the whole world. I mean, we are having discussions about returning to playing football again because we want to do the things that we usually do. That's a realistic conversation to have. On the other hand, too, it's an equally realistic view. That is the fact that these schools have the potential to be serious breeding grounds for the spread of the virus, especially due to the way our public school systems particularly are run. And that is the concern that I get from that letter from the teacher unions, the point that they make over there, that is simply impossible. You have teachers and students coming from different areas, different parts of the community, all coming into the same room. And at the lower level where students, would they understand what social distancing is? Do they understand that they can't touch their friend anymore because of a certain virus that is out there in town? And so there are two competing issues that we need to look at critically. And for me, then the fact that we keep on having a rise in cases, and I don't think we have a firm grasp and idea of the extent of spread in such a manner that we have to be comfortable in saying that it's time to go out there. We may take a bit of time on the bit about the schools, because especially for the lower levels, at the higher level, maybe we may consider, especially with how the online studies is going, but for the lower level of education, I tend to side more with the teacher unions on this particular matter. That, I mean, we shouldn't be thinking about this at this point in time.
And Israel, it seems to be that our concern mainly is with the public schools. And when you gauge the views of parents who mainly have their children in private schools, they seem to think that it will be okay if they should resume beginning of June.
All right, so with the parents, I'm not sure the parents are eager to have the kids go to school or resume school that quickly. But the other question that I would also like us to bring up to do with the private teachers, the teachers in the private schools. So whilst the public schools, they can afford to say, we shouldn't resume anytime soon. But then those in the private schools, the 94,000 who are likely to lose jobs, or some of them have lost their jobs and are not getting paid, they're concerned, and they would wish that things would move quickly. But those in the public sector, they get paid whether school is in session or not. And so we have to find the balance. I am one of those who I've already indicated that I'm not keen on seeing the schools reopening, or I don't intend to see my kids go back to school anytime soon until we're convinced that the right protocols have been put in place, and we feel that we've come to believe that the environment is safe enough for them. So yes, let's consider all the factors.
Well enough. We'll have to look at Mamavi. We have to look at MyJoyOnline.com, get the latest update. On MyJoyOnline.com, we have all the updates there. Throughout the rest of the day, you can go there. But, well, You know, of the cases there where we've reached now 6,096. I saw it and I thought, oh, we're flattening. So I'm thinking these are backlog cases, but I'm not a member of the. So, all right. Other stories also dominating the pages. Wachijang released after police interrogation. After
he's actually been charged with offensive conducts by the police. Doctor
who recovered from COVID-19 shares near-death experience, also occupying that portal, myjoyonline.com, foremost portal. Parliament to test all MPs and staff for coronavirus. And then the Apple story is still dominating, still trending there. And the Tema Fish Processing Company to reopen after COVID-19 mass testing. And look, we have to take a break. The numbers are up though, 6,096. Looks frightening, but I'm thinking it's flattening.
Okay, I don't know about flattening. Let's get into the peaks and flats. But one story that I find missing on the front page on my Joy Online has to do with Bishop Daniel Bini's arrest, which came up yesterday. So it's supposed to be in there. And then we can also leave
Jesus Christ,
the show without talking about the show that the Joy Sports team put together last night.
Absolutely. It's been trending.
It's still trending.
And it's great. So kudos, congratulations to all the guys who made it possible.
Who made it happen.
Charlie.
Yeah. There will be name stories in the Daily Graphic, by the way. It's on page 36. The fact that he's been granted bail. And the fact that he's been in and out. This is not the first time. He was in 2016, in 2018, and then this is 2020.
Yes, I know, right? We're talking about Benin. That's where we have to call it a morning. Israel and Joe, thank you. Make sure you use hand sanitation so that you'll be in a better...
Which one is that?
Hand sanitation. Jesus Christ are watching. You people, make sure that you do the right things. And then,
all right, thank you very much.
And read the Hebrews.
And then Mary and Joseph, you can find them in Genesis. Please go and read your Bible well.
Okay, guys, thanks for joining us. We've got a repeat of PM Express after the AM show at 9 a.m. So if you missed it, you watched it, but you want to watch it again, of course you should watch it again.
Fantastic show.
It's after the AM show. But we'll bring you some of the conversations in sports, which is right after this. And it's a Wednesday, so we've got AM Business right after sports. Stay with us.
Right.